What's up?
There we go. Okay, so this is welcome to Road Goes Ever On and On. I'm Sterling. This is Mark. Today we are doing Pluribus, our first of two live episodes talking about the show up to this point. Episodes 1, 2, 3, 4. We had technical issues and we have ironed them out. We will not have them in the second one, so our apologies on that. But the goal of this was to be able to connect with you and your questions, ideas, theories, and kind of have that kind of dialogue. So, without further ado, let's look at our first question. Mark, what do you think of this one? This says if half the population thought something was moral and the other half didn't know, how do you think the hive mind handles that internally? Who ultimately makes the final decision for the hive? And just to clarify this for anybody, this is what I assume that this is from Gaming Positivity.
Yes.
If I'm wrong about what I'm assuming, my apologies. But what I assume this is saying is if the hive mind had like a perfect 50-50 split, of the 7 billion people, there's 3,500 want ice cream and 3,500 want frozen yogurt. What's the deciding factor on if they eat ice cream or frozen yogurt?
So, kind of like we mentioned in a couple episodes ago about the eusociality, usually they would be serving a queen, and I feel like the queen would be making those decisions. But the join doesn't really seem like they have a queen.
Yeah,
And so, to me, the way that I think about it is either the whatever sequence they have, it's just like destined to be altruistic. Like it basically takes away like any, I don't know, just like any well, oh, the word is on the tip of my tongue. It's hedonistic. Like it
okay,
takes off like the hedonist out of you, and it's just
yeah,
like, okay, we're only doing stuff to collectively benefit everybody.
yeah,
Uh, or potentially, if there's 7 million people on the planet, then, or 7 billion people on the planet, there is probably a majority that are good people overall. Like that's kind of how I would take it, is that like, maybe 10% of the population are people that are trying to further their own interests, when like 90% of the population, like how many people do you know that would actually like take candy from a baby versus like actually give candy to a baby? So ultimately, I think that there's more good in the world, and that is why they ultimately choose good. Now, if it's something like ice cream and yogurt, which
yeah.
there's no good or
Frozen
bad
yogurt.
to,
Yeah.
I don't even know if they would choose that. They'd be like, oh, I just need the right nutrients to live. That's basically.
Yeah, no, I know it's a terrible example because I know that they are they don't have a lot of the same desires that it seems like they used to. Like they're um, it seems like people are wearing what is next to them and or most comfortable, and like I'd uh the guy that was dressed as a biker, I don't know if he necessarily biked there. I think that might have just been the next bit of clothing. The guy that was the DHL guy, what's to say that body, that individual ever worked for DHL, or if he literally just and I know I'm getting on a little bit of a tangent, but it's
Oh
possible
no.
that he, in order to help out, there's fires, everything like that, he goes somewhere in order to deal with something to help out, and then when all is said and done, he doesn't need to go back to his house because nobody has personal possessions, and
You
so
just
he
gotta
just stays
find
in
the
the nearest
closest
house,
bed. Yeah.
the closest bed, what clothes are closest to him that fit him, it's this DHL outfit. Like, he might never have worked in DHL a day in his life. Anyway, so I know that like people don't have the same desires. They don't like, need to wear certain clothes to look good. They don't need to like eat certain things. Um, I kind of think on this one that there's there's like two aspects to it, as far as like the 50-50, like who takes over. I think one part of it may be that it's not that they have to arrive at things by committee, and that it's more of like each person is almost like a neuron in a giant brain,
Hmm.
and all of the knowledge from everybody is accessed to make a decision, and this like new one being kind of makes that decision of itself. It's not like there's like arguments. It's not like it's. So
Yeah, and I could see that, like, if you have all of the knowledge of the world, right? You have all of the information, then technically you could make the most informed decisions. So, like, doesn't matter who's doing what. Like, ultimately you have all of the knowledge collected in your brain. You could be like, I am deciding to do this because I know that it's ultimately a better choice to make.
right. So that could be it. And then another aspect, which is something that I have wondered about, is whether or not they, if it was something where it's like, between doing what is best for like the earth and like, personal desires, that they're that with their desires potentially being like, if their like biological imperative is pushing them to do more than just spread to every human on the earth, and maybe this biological imperative is also driving a lot of the decisions that they make, this the thing of like trying to take care of the earth and like not killing anything, like these also could be tied to that biological imperative. And so it may no longer, some of that may not be a choice, and may just be like things that drive them, maybe.
Right. And if we do get like if they do change everybody, like they are still going to have a biological imperative no matter what. Like they intended that everybody would be changed. Like it seems like the fact that some people aren't changed, it's like this is a first of its kind in this joining aspect. So I do think that like once everybody is joined, like they are still going to have a goal to do something. And so I think that that is an important idea of like how we're going to navigate that.
All right. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say we have a comment
I
from
know.
Zephyr Cat, one of our most loyal fans.
I
She
think our
says
most loyal fan,
she is our most loyal fan,
if we're
for
being
sure.
honest.
Uh, hey guys, I think Carol is horrible. How is it that you like her? Genuine question, no Stark. I just don't understand how anyone can like her. Why do you like her, Sterling?
uh, you know um I I'm not, it's tough because like I don't want to talk crap about myself, but I do feel like to a
I'll do
certain
it.
extent I feel like to a certain extent I am not a perfect person. I'm not a great person, and one of the I think one of my traits as being a person who grew up weird, who grew up kind of marching to the beat of my own drum. I do think that I have a certain kind of like resistance to just going along with things just because it is easy or because everybody else is doing it. It's just not in my nature. And so there are things I like. I do kind of connect with somebody had who can like look at what everybody else is doing and can see that like, one, every, most of the world has been like taken in by this and is now kind of doing this one thing, and then even the remaining people who are alive are all like, no, this is perfectly fine. And I think that most people in that situation in Carol's shoes, would kind of be like, well, I mean, if that's what everybody's doing, then I guess that's what I got to do too. And I don't think they would even think twice about it. I think it would just like naturally they would see everybody else doing it and they would kind of go with it. And that's I'm not trying to say that like people are sheep. I'm not trying to talk down to people, but I do think it is easier to, you know, go with what the large group is doing. And so I do like that, like I do connect with that aspect of like not just instantly going with the grain. And I very much dislike many of the choices that she is making. I don't like the disregard that she has for the others, for the what is coming of the actions that she is taking. But I do, in the end, think that she is the only one that we've seen so far that at least has the right mindset of like this is not right and something has to be done about it. And I think that's what I connect with. And because of that, because I feel like she's the only person that is trying to do the right thing, even if she is doing many things wrong in trying to do it, I at least admire that about her.
Yeah, I mean, I think she is, I do feel like she's kind of got a little bit of a bad rap, and I feel like we're kind of getting these glimpses of Carol that are very unflattering. Like ultimately, I think that she is relatable in the sense of like, if I got dragged to an ice castle or like a place where the bed is made out of ice that I'm gonna be staying for a while that I spent a ton of money on, like I might be a little grumpy too. I'm just saying that like I might be a little grumpy, and I feel like with everything that's going on, like this is like wrapping your mind around the joining and how it's happening. Like I feel like I would be a crazy person too, and being like, I have to deal with this, and I got to figure out how to fix this because I don't want to be part of this thing that I don't know and don't understand, and so like I do think about like how she interacted with her fans,
Yeah.
where that makes me do think that like Carol is a good person and like she has good qualities, but like we've just seen her after she just lost her partner and the weirdest thing in the world happened to her, and then we took a flashback of her at an ice castle. So I think that overall we've just seen some really highlighted negativity of what Carol's been going through in her previous life and in the current life. And I think that she's the other than our guy Manusos in Paraguay, the only one acting in a sound way that if like everybody changed overnight, the whole world is completely different. Like I don't know if I could just go so easily with what's happening. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe like they wine and dine me, they give me Air Force One, and I change my tune. But I don't know. It does seem like she's the only one acting a little normal.
Also, I think it's easy to forget. I think that I think the situation got normalized really quickly as because there is something that with the others being so considerate, constantly trying to help and to be nice. I think that after the like kind of horror of that first episode, it has kind of felt like this is normal and like not bad. But we do have to remember that it's been what 7 days for Carol by episode 4, and she has been through a literal disaster. Um, from her perspective, this is like cataclysmic, and she she lost the love of her life. Unfortunately, the only it seems like that Helen was the only connection family wise that the others had been written off because of like I was going to call it Gravity Falls. The camp Freedom Falls.
Free to falls. Right, right.
Because of like Freedom Falls and like not being, you know, not accepting her for how she is, and so she loses like the one person that means everything to her in her life, and to a certain extent she's also lost like the entire world. I don't know if she doesn't know if what these others are saying is true or not, like that they are still in there, that there's not like something else that's controlling them. And so she's gone through this horrible trauma, and I think that some of her disregard is because of that, is because she, you know, is very overwhelmed by this situation and just trying to do something to make the world normal. And I can't like I don't think I would act well in a situation like this. And
Yeah,
so
I mean, it's really abnormal. It's super weird, and I think that our commenter, uh, live music 6162, has a great analogy. All of these people with families are like, because Carol doesn't have family, it puts her in a place that says that like she has a right to act a little like she has nothing left, and she is supposed to act this way because of it. But also like I would be like, if my family changed overnight, that would be so weird for me. Like
yeah.
the way Carol puts it about like that's not your kid anymore. He could fly to the space shuttle. He could do this. He could do, like that is like that would always be at the back of my mind. Or like any ex-boyfriend or person that you've ever been with, like if you had your mom back with you, and then it's like it's a weird thing, and like it does not feel like it would be okay. And like everybody, like the fact that 13 of them or 12 of them are acting so calm and so chill about it is insane to me. Like it just doesn't make sense. Like I would be freaking out.
Yeah. And I do think that there's something that feels manipulative, and maybe I don't actually think that the others are bad or trying to be bad. I think they can maybe kind of come off as manipulative for one reason or another. But to me there is something that like seems manipulative in the others pretending to hold the roles that they hold for their family members. Like you point out with like the kid. The kid is he is everybody at this point. And so the idea of him staying, like having a curfew, for his mom, like, coming to like letting her maybe still make dinners so that she can feel like she's, and not to like say that these are gender roles, but like if the mom is like the one that cooks, that like he would still come to the table and let her do that for him because it's making her happy, which makes her feel like that's her kid. But really that's Gordon Ramsay. Like he should be cooking, and the only reason he's not cooking for you is because you would think that's weird if your son suddenly was Gordon Ramsay, and they just want to make you happy. So like part of making you happy is still living this life as if you're her son, but you're not
Right.
anymore. And
Yeah.
so like I do see why they're pulled in because of things
Mhm.
like that. And I actually think that the others aren't doing it to be terrible.
No, no, no. No. I don't think they're trying to be terrible at all. But yeah, like to your point, if even just not even cooking, like parenting, right? Like how do you parent somebody that has all of the knowledge of humanity? Like, right? Like it's like,
Yeah.
oh, you should be polite, and oh wait, they're already polite. They're already super nice. Like what are you
Yeah.
telling them to do? Like don't hit the other kids. it's like your role effectively, like in a weird way, what we saw with Menusos, it's like almost like these unchanged are the pets of the hive mind that they just
Yeah.
want to like. How many people have pets? You just want to make your pets happy. You don't want anything bad to happen to your pets. It is kind of giving little pet vibes, like, hey, I'm gonna take care of you, and like, oh, I'll let you think that you're cooking for me and parenting me, and it's just, yeah, it's very odd. All right, let's. I have another comment.
Yes.
Okay, so this is from at Scott Sisters Sing. Okay, he
Okay.
has there is a theory. Okay, the theory is Menusos was joined initially,
Mm.
then became unjoined after the first wave of anger shakes. He's searching the radio frequencies to see if he finds or feels the wavelength they're communicating on. He would know it because he's previously been joined but was released by Carol's anger. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that he was joined and that's why they didn't know he existed, or is it that he was just very isolated? What are your thoughts?
Oh, I mean, this is a really tough one because I actually really like the theory, but I don't think it is correct because I feel like whether or not the like psychic glue gets broken, I don't think that the RNA and whatever it kind of created would have left your body that quickly. Like I so I to me that doesn't I don't know if that quite works with the idea that I potentially have with like how the RNA sequence gets inside of you and what it potentially might be doing to you. I think it's more than just like psychic glue. I I do think that he is, and I didn't think this until I read this in some of the comments that he might be checking the frequencies for their communication, and I love that idea, and I don't know why I didn't think of it because I was on a similar wavelength. I did mention that one of the reasons that like cell towers, that cell phone communications may be turned off isn't just because they don't need them anymore. It could also be um, because that those frequencies like are similar to the frequencies that they communicate. Like if their communication is based off of science, and this is science fiction, it's not fantasy. So in the end, they don't have to explain it. They can use like some, tech gobbledygook to kind of like wave it away. But if they do end up explaining it, I assume it does have to be transmitted on some kind of wavelength.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's the case, then I do see that there could be overlap with other wavelengths. And I was originally thinking maybe it's like cellular networks, but I could see it potentially being, closer to like radio waves.
Yeah.
And if so, like I could see him search, like this is where he's searching to see if he can find, a disturbance, and like that's where they're like communicating.
Yeah, I don't think he was joined because he still has a lot of like hatred for them and a lot of like fear and distrust. And if everybody that joins it has this like euphoric joy of loving this joined group, you would still think that some of that would be retained and be like, okay, well, I've seen them do a lot of helpful things to like the unchanged people. So like, why would I be so distrusting? Plus, he hasn't like eaten anything, and you would think that he would have eaten like right after that. So I do not think that he was changed and then unchanged.
But I do still really like that theory.
It is a cool
There,
theory.
there's another interesting theory that I've seen making the rounds, which is related to um, Carol's name, Carol Sturka,
Mm-hmm.
and the fact that Sturka is the last name in an episode of the Twilight Zone, and it's a great episode of the Twilight Zone. So I don't want to give away the twist, um, but the idea is that Carol is actually like a direct descendant. That this is kind of a continuation of that episode of the Twilight Zone, and um, I don't think you've read that, have you?
I did read the comic.
Okay,
It's
okay.
like
So
something
so do you?
14 or
Yeah.
something.
So do
I
do you do
haven't
you have any
seen.
thoughts on that?
Well, I haven't seen the Twilight Zone
Okay.
episode,
Yeah. Yeah.
so I don't know if I remember. I might have seen it. I just the name isn't familiar, so I
Yeah.
couldn't. I
Okay.
don't
So
know.
quick. If if you don't want this spoiled, I will be done with this explanation in 1 minute. You can just like mute me for 1 minute. Um, Mute me now if you don't want it spoiled. But in the end, it turns out that like this person we've been following that is trying to flee their home world, they are actually the aliens, and the place that that person lands on at the end of the episode is Earth. And so like we thought we were following an Earthling that was like leaving, and so the idea is that that I don't remember what his name is, but something Sturka, that his descendants are the ones that have immunity, because like genetics, they don't always like you know don't always get passed on, or like the traits are sometimes recessive, so they don't necessarily show. And so it could be that like the survivors are direct descendants of that kind of person. um I and I know that one person was actually disappointed, that because I said that like Vince Gilligan said that the like um the surprise is that there is no surprise. So like there aren't going to be twists, that they're like hiding. And if that's the case, then I don't think that this is a twist. Like I don't think that Vince did this. And I think one of our commenters was potentially a little disappointed that like maybe he felt like if that's the case, then like Vince Gilligan was like setting up like false leads, and be disappointed that they were kind of led on. But I don't think that, if I'm correct, I don't think that that's what Vince Gilligan was trying to do, was like trick anybody by doing this and
Sure.
create theories, and instead was just trying to do like a nod to something that he loved, and didn't
Yeah,
think that it might send people down a rabbit hole.
that's kind of what I would think. I, I mean, I do feel like I disagree. I do think there might be a twist at some point. Like, I think that to keep this, like, if we're just gonna be like, oh, are we gonna turn Carol or not turn Carol? Like, I think we need a little bit more higher stakes. I like that
But
some people have
I don't think that there
maybe
needs to
not
be a
like a
twist for that to happen. Like I think
right, right.
there can be surprises without there being twists. Like if you think about Breaking Bad, there weren't any twists to it. It's not like it turned out that, he he didn't actually have cancer, and that was like, something else all along. Like there wasn't a twist. There were plenty of moments that surprised the audience because they didn't expect them, but also when you like saw it happen, it also kind of made sense, So it's like you'd be surprised by a moment, but then you'd also be like, but I do see that that's how it would have played out, like, and and I kind of feel
I
like that's
mean,
what this is going to be. Like we're going to get plenty of surprises.
I could argue there's some twists in Breaking Bad, but that's I won't argue that. But I mean I agree with you. I do think you're right. Maybe there's not like some crazy twist, but I do think there will have to be more surprises to keep an engagement of this premise. But ultimately, I do think that yeah, it's a tongue-in-cheek way to pay homage to, Vince Gilligan probably grew up on Twilight Zone,
Yeah.
and in a way, this is a alien RNA sequence that has been shifted to the Earth, and so that it could just be Sturka is just an homage. So yeah, I don't know if he's doing a direct sequel because that also doesn't seem for people that may have not seen that first episode, that doesn't feel like a satisfying, like if it came out like, oh yeah, like this, they came from this planet and they were trying to escape, and it's like, oh, so it's just a sequel to a Twilight Zone. That I do think that would just kind of create a weird
Also,
dynamic.
I kind of feel like if that was going to be a big twist, then I think that having the name Sturka would have been the only clue he would have given to it. But on the at Comic Con, the panel with Vince Gilligan and Ray Seahorn and others was led by the host of the Happy Sad Confused podcast, and that was actually an episode of the Happy Sad Confused podcast. Was that panel, and Vince Gilligan openly said that the name Sturka was from that episode. And I feel like I don't feel like he would have brought that to people's attention if he was hoping that would be like
A
a cool
twist.
surprise. Yeah, a
Yeah.
twist that he could kind of do later. So, so it feels like that one was just like a nod to something that he kind of loved.
That's completely reasonable.
All right, so let's look at the next one here. We've got I hope Minusos ends up as an antagonist. So, Mark, you tried to start talking to me about this before the episode, and I had to tell you, stop it.
You're right. I
Um,
did. No
we
table
gotta
talk.
save it for the no table talk.
We
And
gotta save it for our fans.
the show needs an antagonist beyond the joined. That line in episode 2 from Zosha about them not protecting the 13 from each other is a Chekhov's gun waiting to go off. What is your thought about Minusos as a potential antagonist?
I do think that them not being able to protect them from each other is set up for something. I kind of go back and forth because I do feel like the joined feels like an antagonist to Carol. Like it might not be the most like cut and dry antagonist where it's
Yeah,
like they're both good people, but ultimately the joined is antagonizing Carol's way of life, right? So I do see that overall they don't need this like person on person conflict, and like yeah, they might not be able to help them, but like if one of those people were like, I want to fly over to Carol to go kill her, they'd be like, well, we're not going to help you fly over there. Like, you got to get there yourself. So,
right.
like, I feel like it would be really hard, though I do think, what was her name? The one that had the kid. I'm drawing a
Yeah, I
blank on
don't
her
remember her
name.
name.
I think that she would be more likely to want to hurt Carol. Like she's been stewing on what Carol has said about um, her child, and that her child not being what he was, and like that's really sitting with her. And then she maybe finally comes to that realization. It's like, yeah, that's not my kid. Carol pointed that out to me. I'm gonna go kill Carol. I do think Minusos is so like right now when I see Carol, she has nothing, and she doesn't, does these kind of messed up things to Sosha. And so ultimately, I think that Minusos is going to be an ally to Carol, like the first true ally, and I'm hitching my horse to that buggy,
And
but we'll see.
he does seem like a principled person. It does seem like he would be somebody that would, like, he obviously isn't currently trusting of the others. He seems principled in that, like, even though the world has gone to shit and it'd be very easy to just break open all the lockers and take whatever. I think plenty of people would smash and grab in a situation like this. And the fact that he not only waited so long to take anything, but also wrote a note about, I'll give you restitution, means that I think that he is going to be strongly principled. And so that could be why he, doesn't get lured in by their, like, trying to make you happy, and ends up being that kind of ally for Carol. And that could make him a very good foil to Carol, of like um, maybe having the same goals, but like not being willing to cross some of the lines that Carol seems so willing to cross. Um,
He might be
but
her
I
little
could,
Jiminy Cricket, her little
yeah,
conscience that tells her the right things to do.
but I could also see him being a protagonist. You know, it wasn't in this comment; it was in another comment said the same kind of thing about Manusos,
Hmm.
and they made an interesting kind of like parallel with The Walking Dead, saying that in The Walking Dead the zombies aren't really the antagonists. In a lot of the episodes, it ends up being just other people. End up being like, especially Negan is obviously like a super well known one.
The
So
most dangerous people, or the most dangerous animal, man.
right. So I I don't think that he's going to be the antagonist, but I think he possibly could be. As far as the Chekhov's gun comment going, I can see this playing out one of two ways. When I first heard that comment and saw that episode, the comment being like, "I can't protect you from the other people."
Hmm.
Um, Technically, that could have actually played out that episode. No, she didn't get attacked, but she got emotionally devastated in assuming that these people were going to work with her. And the
Hmm.
the one mother that you mentioned, when she Lakshmi,
Lakshmi, you yes.
when she made the comment about Carol being responsible for 11 million deaths, that was emotional damage.
True,
Like,
because we did see her when Carol was asking about how many people she killed to Soja. She was like, what was it, like tens, hundreds? Like, and like she never answered her. And finding out you killed 11 million people, that is pretty devastating.
so what do you think about this lying by omission thing? Because like when she asked Zosha how many people that she killed,
Hmm.
Zosha did not answer that question. When she asked Zosha about if she can turn her or not, like, there are the we've seen the Hive make these like dodges where they like artfully dodge a question. What are kind of your thoughts on that?
So I think like lying by omission is the only way that they can lie, right? So
Mm-hmm.
when Carol's asking about these numbers, she's asking several times, and then Zosha just kind of like, "Oh, I'm not gonna answer it," and then like it never came back up, so she like didn't have to deal with it. But I think if Carol is persistent enough, or any of the unchanged are persistent enough and are asking, and like they will like finally tell them. Like so, like ultimately, I think it is impossible for them to lie by omission. Like I think that if you bother them enough about it, you can get the answer out of them.
Yeah.
I think that's important.
Do you think they are trying to be misleading on purpose?
No, I think it's more of I think it kind of like it's like a rule in their brain, right? Like it's like almost like the robot laws of
Yeah.
Isaac Asimov, where
Yes.
it's like,
Yes.
oh, I cannot hurt people, so I'm not going to tell them things that I think would hurt them.
Yeah.
And
In
it's
this
like
case, it's
it's
like they can't do emotional damage. So they can't like they can't they need to make people happy. So like saying something that makes them upset goes against their very programming.
right. And so ultimately it's like
Yeah.
I just don't want to tell you. But then it's like if they're persistent, it's like, okay, clearly they want to know. So like I would be doing more damage if I don't tell them. So now I feel obligated to tell them, even if I think they're not going to like the answer.
Yeah, I don't know if it's necessarily persistence or like asking the right questions. You have to like ask something that they can't quite get around. Is
Well, because I do think they can ignore the questions, right? Like she did ignore about like how many people died, and she just
Yeah,
like, I'm not going to answer it.
yeah,
But when she was She was very persistent about what happened with Helen. Just like, tell me.
Yeah.
And they kept trying to be like, no, no, you don't want to know. You don't want to know.
Right.
And then like Carol's like, it'd make me really happy if you told me. And then it's like, all right, now I gotta tell you.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, it's just it's so interesting to me that certain things just feel like they are like there's something like sinister and evil going on, but then I keep telling myself that like I don't think that's actually the case. And great examples of that is like um when Carol has Zosha, out of the hospital, she's drugged her and she's trying to ask those questions. My first thoughts when I see them coming is like, oh shit, what's about to happen? And they don't do anything negative. They
Yeah.
all they can do is plead because I think they potentially can't upset her. So they, stepping in to help Zosha actually would upset her. So they can't save one of their own because of that. But certain things we're just like so used to how they are in our world that they seem sinister. So like when we see that group forming, it looks sinister. Um, when
Well,
we when in I think in our world, like what we're used to, when somebody withholds information, we know that they're like, I mean, you may not know this in the moment, but like it makes you angry because you feel like they are intentionally hiding something from you
hmm,
by not mentioning it. But in this case, it may be like you said, like they can't mention it. And
right.
so there's so many of these things that when I see them, like my instant reaction is like, there's something sinister. And then as I think about it, I'm like, I don't, I don't think it is.
I mean that first scene when they are coming out and she's like questioning Soja, it did feel like that's like a kid that was like about to get in trouble from her parents and like all of them coming out from everywhere and like silently like they knew that she was doing something bad and like you're about to get caught, you're about to suffer the consequences. I felt intimidated. I'm like, oh geez, she's pulling somebody out. Like they're gonna be like, you can't do this. Like there's gonna be consequences. And you're right. It's just the pleading. It's like, please, Carol, please. Like that's I don't know. I feel like it feels more sinister and nefarious just because it's not what we're used to. And ultimately, I know that's basically what you said.
but
But
it's
yeah,
just hard. It's hard not to feel that. And I think that Vince Gilligan just does such a good job of doing that, where he frames things from such an interesting vantage point that it just creates a new perspective that you couldn't have considered without kind of having that vantage point.
yeah.
Let's go ahead and look at the next one that we've got here, which is I think it might be good thing, i.e., for people to opt in, like prisoners or convicts, serious crimes, or alcoholics, people with trauma, or people who want to get life in order and be able to choose uh, time frame. Are they synced? Like
Choose.
Severance
I think
deal.
choose a time frame they are synced.
Yes. Okay. So what are your thoughts on this? Also, love the Severance reference because I love Severance.
Yeah. I mean, I think it could be cool to be like opt in to opt out and like have that individuality. Like I think that's ultimately like the best compromise to Carol and the joint, right? It's like hop in for a little bit, get some like dopamine, good vibes feeling, and like back into the real world. But ultimately, it does seem like once the people join, they don't want to leave.
Yeah.
So I think that's like the trick, right? It's like if they were like, oh, you can leave whenever you want. You just have to come in first, and then you're just like, oh, well, I'm never leaving this utopia. Like,
Yeah.
so I don't
Also,
know.
I think I also think it would leave the worst type of people remaining, because if you're people that are in jail and like featuring facing a life sentence, they may want to opt into this to get their freedom from jail. But the criminals that see that they could then live a life where like the 7 billion remaining people would like wait on them hand and foot and they could get whatever their heart desires and like
True.
I don't think that the worst people would want to give up their freedom. I think they'd very much like to enjoy that. And so I think that would create potentially a worse situation
Are you saying
than
Carol's the worst person? Because she
also
doesn't want to jump.
I do want to point out that some people haven't picked up on, and I know that most people have, but I think even Ray Seahorn, when she first was reading the log line, got confused by the thing about like the unhappiest person on earth. It's it's not that Carol of all 8 billion people was the unhappiest person. It's like in this new Earth with
She's the
the 13
unhappiest.
people that are remaining, she's the unhappiest.
Yeah.
So I just wanted
That makes a little bit more sense because, like, yeah, she was disappointed in her books, but you could tell she had happiness with Helen, the moments with her fans. Like, she was, I mean, cynical for sure, and
right,
cynical
right.
about her writing, but I don't think she was, like, unhappy. And cynical about the ice caves. But again, those ice caves would be a nightmare. And anybody that
Yeah,
says that they would love to lay on an ice bed and live in 3 degree or -3 degree rooms, they're liars. Those, that's a lie.
yeah.
Nobody wants that.
Are babies part of the collective? Can an infant fly airplanes? That's a question we got.
Okay, I think babies know how to fly an airplane, but they don't have the motor controls yet. Well, but that is an interesting question though. Like, once the babies are in, like, joined, do they now get high functioning motor skills? Can they like speak eloquently because they know how to now, or is it still kind of like you have to let the muscles learn and kind of gain shape? Can they fly a plane? No, they can't reach the pedals.
They
They
can't.
can't reach the steering wheel. I'm gonna
The
say
yoke,
babies
yeah,
can't fly a plane.
yeah. The steering wheel.
Could they do taxes?
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Maybe.
yeah. You know, I do think they're connected. Otherwise, I think as honest as the others are, they would have said a much larger number than 13. So I do think that they are part of the collective. I think maybe their brain hasn't developed enough that they, like just because you are connected doesn't necessarily mean that you, I don't know, maybe have like the processes to be able to. I mean, you definitely don't have like complete control over your body. Like
Yeah.
they'll still not know how to walk and whatnot. So I think their brains still need to develop. I would assume
But
that it would.
but what you
Yeah,
just said right there, you
yeah,
said
yeah,
they don't know how to walk. But wouldn't
yeah.
they know how to walk? Once they have
Well,
all
like
of the
they.
collective,
Well, I mean but that's like that's like giving somebody a book on how to dance and having them read it and be like, okay, now go ahead and do the tango. Like you know how to dance. Like just because you have that knowledge doesn't mean that you have the skill that goes with it and like the muscle memory. Um, like I do think that there's a difference between like a certain extent of this is almost like gaining like book knowledge. Like just because you have it doesn't necessarily mean that like your body can execute that quickly. But I don't think it would take you long to get that muscle memory.
the girl from TGI Fridays knew how to fly a plane.
Right.
Just throwing it out there.
But that's not like muscle memory. She, like, and honestly, like somebody else could have just been controlling. Like if whatever she sees, all the pilots can see. So I'm sure that there were like 3,000 people that were all telling her like a little bit more to the left, a little bit more to the left. you know?
It is. It does bring up a curious question of like how does it work with with
Yeah.
children and infants. Like we do know with Lakshmi's child, like he's basically got the knowledge of all the gynecologists that can just know what to use perfectly, because that's what she's asking about the speculum, which one to use. um I don't know. But we have a comment. John287. Soja still had to do physical therapy after getting shrapnel in the back. Shows to me that all knowledge in the world can't overcome physical limitations, according to this show at least. That is a great take. I think that highlights what you're saying about the babies and their abilities. Like, they just don't have the capacity to do it. Great input, John. Appreciate it.
Unfortunately, I lost audio for a moment, so I didn't catch all of what you said. So I will not be able to jump in on that one.
Wow, you typical Sterling. I pour my heart and soul out to you and you just don't listen. Do you know how many times we have to edit this out of our videos? And now on live, you can't get away from it.
It
Just
was another
kidding.
fun technical issue. Let's look at this one from Kingdom of Capybaras, which I already told them that I live in San Diego. We go to the zoo here. We got capybaras. I love capybaras. They're cute.
Who doesn't love capybaras?
Yeah, yeah. Uh, so he says I was going to get into a tangent, and then I realized, you know what? I can't cut the tangents out of the live, so
You
I'll
cannot.
just
Reel it back in.
reel myself back. Something sinister is going to happen with Carol's eggs. Whether they're going to experiment on them or find a cure for Carol or do some cloning, I would be asking for them back as a matter of urgency. Toot
Yeah.
sweet. I'd want them back toot sweet.
Toot sweet. I do think that seems like a more Chekhov's gun to me, is Carol's eggs. Just a casual mention. Definitely could be misused by the joined if they are trying to, potentially they don't think of repopulating the earth as, like a physical thing anymore. And they're just like, all right, science. We have all these frozen eggs. We have all this frozen sperm. Let's just put them together, put them in people. Boom. Done. And it doesn't cost anybody anything. So making little baby Carols that are joined or using her eggs to do tests for her, I do believe these eggs are coming back in this season.
Yeah, and that one 1,000% was referenced, and there's no way to say that it was used. Like I did say that, like with the other one that was kind of pointed out as a Chekhov's gun, that might have actually technically happened in that episode because she did get hit with emotional damage. But this one, that feels like that can't just be a throwaway line. There's got to be something there. And there was another person in the comments at one point before I'd read this one that asked how they were making a cure without getting her blood.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that is how they were doing it.
I mean, part of me does feel like the eggs, but also maybe because, if Carol has ever donated blood, or do they have the records of what she's gone through? Could they replicate it? Did they grab some of her saliva? There is, I think, a lot of options for how they would do this with Carol, or just even the fact that there's 13 others that are unchanged that may be willingly giving them access to their blood, and maybe whatever is wrong with one of them is also wrong with Carol's. So they're like, we're not really trying to get Carol's blood yet because we have others to work on before Carol.
Yeah. I can definitely see that. But I like this, and I think that there's something is definitely going to come up with this.
Oh yeah.
Let's look at this one from Cass Hoskins, which says the whole thing is like colonizing. Joining and erasing my identity feels like the death of the self. I was thinking about the end of art and culture. I'm with Carol. Also, I feel like everyone is glossing over how she lost her wife. What are your thoughts on any of this?
I mean, I do think there is this, great idea that it does feel like colonizing. Like it is, if you think about what colonizing is, somebody goes in somewhere and basically strips them of their identity and forces their identity onto the locals. And in a way that is kind of a similar feeling. It's, people aren't individuals anymore. They have to deal with the joined. They have to be this new version of themselves. So it's a little messed up. And this is why I think Carol has every right to act this way about it.
Yeah, it's as far as like erasing your identity and feeling like death of the self, I do wonder about like how much of you is you when you have access to everybody and you're in kind of all of the bodies at once. Like you definitely lose your physical sense of self, because you now see through everybody's eyes. You have everybody's experiences. And so I man, it's weird. I'll keep this super short. I realize that most people probably aren't anime nerds, but Don and I are watching Neon Genesis Evangelion. I've watched it before. This is Don's first time going through it. If you've never watched Neon Genesis Evangelion, it starts off looking like it could just be like your typical mecha anime of, giant robots fighting giant monsters. And it slowly devolves into these existential questions and, questions about like what your self is. And it does get into like a deep dive into the psyche. And so it's wild watching these at the same time, because I do think they're asking some of the same questions. It's interesting seeing it from, I think with like this show, it starts right off the bat with that, versus like Neon Genesis, it kind of like eases you in. You think that you're just in for like a fun robot battle, and then it's like slowly gets darker and darker.
And by the end of it, it's it's a whole, if you haven't seen it, highly recommend. I also like it. But it is kind of a mind fuck.
Yeah. So I just thought there were kind of like interesting parallels about, losing yourself and like, who are you? And I think Severance asks some of this stuff, but not quite like this does. Like, and I really like what this show does as far as being, so much of it is ambiguous, like we're not
Right.
given the exact answers. And so I think that's one of the great things about this show is like when I think about shows like Severance, I think a lot of the questions we have, like, why are there goats, have definitive answers. Whether or not we get them, that's a different question. But like there are answers for a lot of these questions. We just don't know them. Versus this show is, I feel like every moment is up to interpretation of, is Carol good or bad? What is it like to like what is happiness? What is like there's so many questions in here. And I love that.
Yeah. And I do think with all of the niceness, it gives you this like unsettling feeling. Like there's nothing really dangerous or threatening, like we've mentioned, but there is an unsettling, like uncanny valley where it's just like this doesn't feel right. That brings this like level of eeriness to all of it. And the writing's tight. Tight, 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 tight. Toy.
um, is especially if you're, as long as you're okay with like this style, I can see. Um, there's part of me that almost feels kind of surprised by it because it's such like a slow pace. It feels like the kind of thing that wouldn't have come out after TikTok. And that's not me trying to like trash TikTok and trash people that are watching it, but it does feel like,
Sounds like it.
it does feel like, attention spans are somewhat shorter, and that, something like this that like really asks you to give it the proper time, and
Yeah.
that there can be, I mean, like that second episode legitimately had 13 minutes with zero dialogue. Um, and you were confused for a good chunk of that 13 minutes before it's like, oh, this is what's going on.
Right.
Um,
It definitely does feel like this is not a show that you can like be on your phone while watching. And I mean, you could definitely be on your phone while watching it, but you're gonna miss a lot because, like we've mentioned a lot of show don't tell, and so like if you're not paying attention, you're gonna miss things. You're not gonna pick up on what is going on, and I am grateful that we have a show that is like this because I do think that a lot of shows can kind of feel dumbed down to like engage this audience that is passively scrolling while watching like reality TV, I think is a great example of something that you can do passively while you um, scroll through TikTok. Where this one, I think it's very difficult, and that might turn off some people to it. Some people might be
yeah.
like, I can't do multiple things. Like I have to focus on the show, and that might be a turn off. I love it. I think it's great.
Yeah, it definitely seems like, it reminds me of like foreign language movies where it's like, or shows, where it's like you have to pay such close attention because you have to like read the subtitles. You can't be
Right.
distracted by anything for a moment because, like, especially because there's so little audio and so much of the story is told just through visuals. If you miss a visual, it could completely change your takeaway. I do have one last interesting one that I'm interested in going over, which
Okay.
is K3032 TC T6D, which to me actually sounds like the kind of names that you might get after joining the others. But at some point they'd like just start like numbering you instead of,
Sure.
like it
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
seems more efficient.
Person number
Uh,
one. Like
yeah,
each person is just a number.
and they'd probably do something like this where it'd be alphanumeric just to be more, just so that they don't have to like get into like the 8 billions. They can keep it fewer characters and be able to express it. This one says, my take is it's an allegory about AI slash internet homogenizing the world and how people happily embrace it. All the signs there that the infrastructure will fail and creativity will wither. People are ancillaries of the hive mind. What are your thoughts?
I mean, I do feel like just her conversations with the hive mind feels like chat GPT. It's like, great point, Carol. Like thanks for
Right.
bringing that up, but you were totally right to feel this way. Like and so I do kind of see that, and I do kind of see it just also being part of like the internet. Like we used to be so disconnected as people, and now we are all at each other's fingertips at any
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah.
Like I'm currently in this arguments class right now. How
No,
to
you're
write
not.
an arg. I am.
No,
Stop
you're
arguing
not.
with me. I am. Stop
That's
arguing with me. And
I.
that I'm a
I'm
good
the top
arguer.
person
Stop
from the
it.
class.
Stop it. You are my final boss. Uh, but one of this interesting, ideas of like how argument was formed before is this idea that there is a speaker and there is an audience that you are speaking to try and like make your argument. And now it's like, what does it mean to be like speaker and argument when you can put anything on the internet and anybody can see it anybody can engage, anybody can like comment on it. So then it's like now they're the speaker and you're the audience, and this new role of like speaker audience is kind of merged together and kind of like molded into like a very uh like some like hybrid organism where it's like both are both. And
Yeah.
so I kind of see that with this where it's like argument just kind of goes out the window too. Like there's no way to like we were talking earlier, how do you decide what you're doing with one way or what or like who is making the decisions? Like they want to change everybody, but what else are they trying to do? Like who's making those arguments? Who's wanting this? And I think that
Yeah.
it is a good allegory. I think it does hit a lot of those questions that we are facing today, weirdly, without the joined and our
Yeah.
collective hive mind. And I think it makes it interesting.
Something I think is great about this show and Vince Gilligan is that, um, I already kind of mentioned this first part, which is that there's so much that is not explicit. There's so much that is implied, and then on top of that, Vince Gilligan has made a point of like once he creates it, it is yours. You can certainly ask him his opinion about what his intentions were, but he's not going to tell you that you were wrong. And so the cool thing here is if you think it's an allegory about AI, it is. Um, I have seen interviews where he said that he didn't write it about AI, but because it is, because so much of it is implied and so much is up to interpretation. For me, it's kind of like art, where I think
It's
it
actually
doesn't.
literally art, just so
It
you know.
is, yeah,
Yeah.
and it's like you don't. It doesn't matter what the person that created it thought of it anymore. It's now yours to take. And because it's not like most shows that are just so explicit and there's going to be some nerdy scientist that's going to spell it all out so that you don't have any questions. But that also means that like you don't get to that's not a blank canvas and you can't put your thoughts onto it. You get what you get and you don't throw a fit. And this is like it's yours in the end. It's your interpretation. And so it is about AI. And I totally see that. I love the fact that he didn't write this about AI. And yet when I hear the conversation, like when I hear Zosha talk, she sounds like an AI agent that's just like spitting out facts and like trying to make you happy. Like she sounds so much like AI.
Did you know that vodka comes from the derivative of water?
Right.
Same with whiskey. It's like, calm down, girl. Listen, there's a reason I'm not best friends with ChatGPT. I can't. One, I don't want a know-it-all friend, and two, I don't want somebody brown nosing me. That's just there's too much. Be mean to me. Pick on me. Give me a little shit. I need it. I can't have somebody
Yeah.
being too nice and too know-it-all.
Yeah. Um, but with that, I think our journey has come to an end.
Thank you guys so much for joining along with us. Thank you for dealing with our technical issues and still making it to this live show. Again, we're going to do one after episode 7. We look forward to having you then. And our next episode, episode 5, is coming out later this week. We look forward to having you then. Until then, I'm Mark. This is Sterling.
Thanks. All right. That should be it. I'm going to hit stop. I already ended it on YouTube.